Hey guys, welcome back to Mentally Fit. This is Hippie here. Once again, I know it's been a while. There has been a lot going on, and I mean a lot. Mainly good things, I'm happy to say. I've been transitioning over to another job where I am now. Love it. I left a job that was extremely, and when I mean extremely toxic, it was if you've seen some of my other videos, you may know, or I may have mentioned that it was so detrimental to me and my mental health. I couldn't focus, I couldn't think, I couldn't eat, I didn't want to do anything. And it was because I was so stuck in a place where I was just so unhappy. I'd also like to say that I took that job when I first moved to town. So this was the first job that I took. And because it was the first job that I took, I really didn't care how much it was paying me. I didn't care anything. I just wanted a job, and I stayed too long. I got really comfortable. Where my mental health was at the time, I wasn't ready to continuously speak to people, to continuously deal with distractions. During the day, you're dealing with so much more. It's a lot more interaction and things like that. So I couldn't deal with that at the time. So I took the overnight position to benefit me. And, I need to work, but I was trying to find something that can accommodate me and my needs at the time. Slowly, things changed very slow, very slowly. Ended up almost being there 2 years. But what I can say is that it was had its benefits, right? I learned, I persevered. Um, Thankfully, I was able to pay my rent and things like that, and that's a blessing all in itself. Especially when you're dealing with mental illness, there's so many people who they can't get by, they can't even get out of bed because it's so debilitating. So to have a job for 2 years and to living on my own and supporting myself, it's a big accomplishment. And I always try to do something nice for myself or pat myself on the back to remind myself that I'm doing something that's very difficult, and it's not something that everyone can do alone. We definitely need assistance. We need help. I know I need help a lot of the times. If it wasn't for a lot of my friends, I wouldn't be in the best position. Um, but in this transition, what I've noticed is that now that I'm someplace where I feel a lot more comfortable, um, I don't feel I don't feel that I have to hide my mental illness. If I'm not feeling well or something, I can say, hey, I'm not feeling well today. I'm not going to come in, or let's switch shifts or something. It's not unspoken of, right? Because the reality is 1 in 5 people deal with mental illness, and there are people here who also deal with mental illness. So it's nice that they're accommodating, and and not just that they care. They ask how are you doing, thank you for coming in. Little things like that go a long way. So if you're working a job where you feel that it's just taking your energy and your mental health, and even when you get home you can't forget about this job, I know it's hard to say quit, or rather it's hard to find another job sometimes, and what's going to happen to me. And I definitely had that. I had friends and family telling me, quit that job. It's going to be the end of you. And I continued to work there for my security, right? I didn't want help from anyone. I wanted to be independent. I have been independent since I was 20 years old. I've lived on my own. So now, being 30, I don't want to take steps back in that direction where I have to be dependent on living with another person. Again, if it happened and my mental health declined and I needed to do that, then by all means I will do that. There is no shame in accepting or asking for help. But at that point, I wasn't ready for that, and I was just ready to continue toughing it out. And unfortunately, I lost a lot because I stayed there so long. I lost almost good work ethic. I didn't want to really work. I mean, not only that, it was overnight, so there wasn't much to do in the first place anyway. But just because of how I was being treated, I kept pushing the envelope further and further and further and seeing, what can I get away with? And when I was having, there was a time where I had a drinking problem, and I was just drinking at work and, just really losing myself, right? Because there was no organization, there was no accountability. And because there was no accountability, that was comfortable. All I had to do was show up, and that was it. And I could manage that, right? If I needed to cry, I'd cry in the back. If I needed to have a drink, I'd have a drink. Whatever I needed to do, I would do it. And I was at work while I was doing these things. So it was creating an atmosphere, at least in my life, of such turmoil. And things were unorganized, and I never knew whether I was going to be drinking or smoking or this or that, or all I knew was that I had to be at work, and I would always show up, but in what condition was the question. And I was always able to work. I was never so inebriated. But again, that's, that's subjective. That's different to everyone. But what I realized was that just working a job that you hate, it's not worth it. Life is just extremely short, It's funny, they say life is short, but life is really long if you make the wrong decisions, like marrying the wrong person, or staying in a relationship way too long, or even staying at a job that it's run its course. And for a long time now, I've known that job's run its course. I knew that I didn't want to be there anymore. I wasn't happy at all, at all. And I knew that it was affecting my mental health in a negative way. I started to have to take precautions. I'm filming on my cell phone. I had to tell them that I didn't have a cell phone because they would email me when I was off work, and it would build so much anxiety in me. Hey, Kevin, where's this? Or what happened with this guest? Or this or that? And it just added up, and it got to the point where I couldn't even sleep because anytime a message would go off, I would think it was my manager complaining about something, and I wasn't even at work. So it was something that it was really affecting my mental health. There were times where I would go into work and I would just go to the back, where they, store things, and I'd just cry. Just horrible, just a horrible feeling of helplessness and what am I gonna do, and but I'm thankful and I'm very happy to say that I made that decision. And the second I made that decision to take an investment in myself, right? To take a chance on myself, because that's something that I think that we have issues doing sometimes, right? We have issues taking chances on ourselves. Whether you're dealing with mental illness or not, it's easier to take the safer route, right? Where, oh, that steady paycheck, and even though they're not paying me, right, or I don't enjoy it, let me stay there. And life is bigger than that. Life is about adventuring, experiencing, meeting new people, doing things that are going to make you happy and content, things that you can remember when you're at that point in your life and you're at the end, and you can say, hey, I lived my life the way I wanted to. I chose the things I wanted to do. I made my decisions, and lying here now, I have no regrets. And that is my goal. My goal is to live my life in a way where I'm not living for other people. I'm not living through other people. I'm not here to make anyone happy. It's not my job, right? I'm just here to be a good person, to leave the world a better place than I found it. That's my only responsibility, is to the world, to the universe, and to myself, to be a good person to myself, and to do the things that help me first. Because when you're dealing with mental health, you often put others before you. Whether that's your spouse's feelings, your children's feelings, even your work. Can't tell you how many times I went into work when I knew I shouldn't. And my mental health was at its worst, and I knew that going in was going to make it even more worse. And guess what? I went in. And that was to make someone else rich. There's no point in going to work every day for 8, 9 hours, 10, 12. Some people, and to what? To make someone else's dreams come true, for you to come home and not even have time for your dreams, or for your children, or for your family, your ambitions, even to, for your mental health. it was headed down a wrong path, and I knew that I had to do something about it. And I'm really thankful, and I just want to thank all my friends and support systems for helping me work this throughout in my head. Because what people don't realize is that when you're dealing with mental illness, specifically bipolar, this is what I can speak to as I'm diagnosed, but you have this doubt in your head, this constant voice. I know you've seen the cartoons where there's the devil and then there's the angel, and one saying do this and the other one saying don't do that, and you know, it's almost like that in mental health. You have a voice in your head, and unfortunately, it's often a negative voice. At least for me, it's telling me that I'm not good enough, or I'm never going to achieve the things that I want to achieve, or my mental health is holding me back, or no one's going to care or love me because of my mental health. And those are things that are very normal, right? It's naturally occurring in your brain, and we have to be able to shut those things off. And one of the ways I do that is just by talking to my friends, just saying, hey, this is how I feel, what can I do, or what would you do? And it just helps so much for us to have people who we can speak to, right? And we need to be there for each other, more, because we're over here paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars to therapists and this and that, and it's like we can just be there for each other sometimes. So that's today's video. Today's video was mainly about that. Just kind of updating you guys on what's going on. I'm preparing like a little YouTube studio and things like that. So there's a lot going on, a lot of exciting things coming to the future. So please subscribe, please comment, let me know that you're here. My goal again is just to help a few people dealing with mental illness. If it's just one person, I'm glad that I did this video, because it's I know personally I search for videos where I can get help and information and wisdom about my illness. And while there is a lot out there, there's not enough. There's not enough transparency around mental illness. There's just not enough. And it's mainly due to the stigma. And I do believe that we all have a responsibility to break the stigma in any way we can, in any way that we feel comfortable, that doesn't sacrifice our mental health. With me, I'm very comfortable speaking about these things, while with others, they're not as comfortable, and that's perfectly okay. We all do our parts in very different ways. It's part of a puzzle that comes together. I'd use my other hand to make a little puzzle piece, but I'm holding the phone. But yeah, we're all in this together. Please remember, don't stay someplace where you hate it, and just take care of yourself and have a good day. Thank you, guys.